Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for another Wild Whisper design team video. Today I'm featuring their brand new collection, which is called Palm Paradise. Here I'll flip through the papers quickly, but you can definitely check it out. I'll have it linked down below in case you're interested in buying any of it. I'm featuring just the papers right now, as well as some mixed media things that I'm going to be working with. But definitely check out the entire collection. They have flair, they have ephemera, anything you probably want they have. So definitely check it out. It's perfect for your summer vacation photos, or maybe you're just live in a tropical place, maybe like Hawaii photos, or just maybe like the zoo. Anywhere could work. Here I've pulled out one of the acrytones that I pulled out from my How to Kill a Kit with Style stash kit, as you guys know, and I realized I forgot to gesso my paper, so I'm going to do that really quick. And then I put some of that paint, which is like a heavier body acrylic paint, onto a plastic sheet, and I'm adding some water to it just to give it some movement. I definitely should have put water on my paper as well. That would have helped move it around a little bit. Instead, I get more of a grid design, more of a modular design with my background instead of like an actual, you want more of a watercolor look usually, because I didn't put water on my paper beforehand. So it looks fine at first. I really should have added more paint for the cover, or the area that I wanted to cover, because I end up getting lines throughout my design because of the sheet that I'm using. Which again, totally my fault, but it looks fine. I definitely don't do mixed media too often, it's just not my thing, but I'm happy with how this turned out, and it just needs to dry, which is one of the worst things I hate about mixed media, is that it needs to dry, and I don't like using my heat gun to dry it, because I find that warps the paper a lot. And there you saw me flash some beautiful stamps from Wild Whisper. However, these are currently not available when this video goes live. They'll be available in the next release, unless you can go to one of Wild Whisper special events where they carry the stamps in person. So definitely follow them on social media so you guys can check that out if you're in Canada, perhaps near where they are going to be for the special events, and maybe you could pick up this stamp set relatively early. But for now, they're not available online, but I'm lucky to have a set to use for my projects. So right now I'm looking through all of my bits and pieces. I know I want to stamp my title. Right now I'm going to let the background dry. And here I pulled out another mixed media element from my homemade stash kit, and this is I think it's called a Pasties. It's in the color Hold the Mustard, which is a Shimmers product. And I'm just putting that through an Echo Park stencil that I have. It's just a foliage stencil, so I thought that was perfect for this layout, which is actually of the Botanical Gardens in Washington, D.C., which is really beautiful. I don't have too many pictures of it. Like, we took a lot of pictures there. I just didn't print many of them because a lot of them are just the actual plants and not of us at the place. So I decided I would just print a couple of these and use them for my DC album. So I'm carefully putting it through the stencil. It's just a modeling paste consistency, but it does take a while to dry. But I also kind of put it on a little bit thicker than I probably should have. So once my stencil is clean, I'll be back and let this dry for a little while. Now I'm going to work on layering my photos. I do need to trim these a little bit. I did my mixed media kind of lower than I originally had anticipated. I wanted these to be more centered on the page rather than towards the bottom like they will be, but that's okay. I end up balancing it out with some other elements later on, but for now I'm going to mat the photos. I do trim my photos down a little bit just so they can fit in that new space down beneath the mixed media line. I like how the mixed media sort of looks like a flower petal in a way, because it has the point at the top, which again, totally unintentional. I'm just really bad at mixed media. So I'm going to mount my photos on this light pink, it's not light pink, it's like a medium pink paper with words all over it for this one. And then my other one I'm going to mount on the fruity paper, which I think is really fun. And I'm also going to cut off this branding strip that I plan on using off of that word paper. So I really like the fruity pattern paper for this, mainly because it brought in more colors to my color scheme. I didn't leave a wide enough border so anyone could tell what they were. It more looks just like polka dots if you look up close to it. So there's that border strip that I pulled out to bring in that teal and that yellow a little bit more. And then I'm also bringing in those colors through that secondary pattern paper. Here I'm pulling out all of the elements for my title. So I'm going to put Botanical Gardens. Nothing too fancy there. I thought about using this second font. So there's two stamp sets, one's script and one's just capital letters in a different font. So I just end up going with the script letters, which I'll stamp in a little while. But I know you guys want to see more stamping on layouts, and if you guys don't own an alphabet stamp set, definitely invest in one. Find one that you really, really like, because one, they're kind of expensive if you're getting the larger alphabets. And if you actually don't have smaller alphabets, I recommend getting at least 2 sizes for your titles. Ideally, fonts that go together, which again is totally a preference for you, but highly suggest investing in an alphabet set if you think you will use it. It's relatively easy to stamp with these ones. I don't stamp very often on my layouts, as you guys know, with titles at the very least. Definitely smaller elements I'm more comfortable stamping with, but this is sort of getting me in that mindset that I could save a lot of stickers and a lot of time and money making my alphabets if I were to just stamp them out. So I do pull out those alphabets, but I'm kind of hesitant to try to stamp them, so I'm going to work on some clustering instead. On the back of that light pink paper that I showed you earlier, there are beautiful floral pieces, so I'm going to cut out a bunch of these from this one scrap piece. I cut up some of the orange ones, the red ones, and I think some of the leaves as well. Yeah, here I'm cutting out one of the leaves. And I'm definitely not a huge fussy cutter. Like, I didn't even have my fussy cutting scissors with me at this process video, but what I did use was my giant scissors, which was very difficult. But I'm really glad I did fussy cut these out. I think it worked really well in the end to have those tucked in around my photos. And although these plants are not tropical plants that I'm showing, there were tropical plants there, so it felt a little more appropriate. But here's where I'm going in with my first stamp. You guys will notice that I rubbed the stamps on my arm a little bit just to prep them for stamping. These are a brand new stamp set that I've never used before, so I wanted to make sure there wasn't any film on there or any different texturing from the stamp process. So since these are script stamps, they kind of do generally flow into each other. You'll see some of mine that do touch and some that don't. It really just depends. Like an E, I don't know how that would touch an N personally, because I don't do hand lettering. So I just ended up locking those out so they weren't touching. But again, totally up to you. I did the rest of them, I think, attached, which looks really, really great. And it looks like I almost did hand lettering on the paper. And I'm not sure if this would pick up on the video, but some of them did not stamp properly due to the mixed media background being a little bit uneven or textured. So what I ended up doing for those was filling them in with a black marker, which you'll see in a little bit because it happens in both words, botanical and gardens. So as you can see, I did connect some of them and didn't connect other ones. I think it looks fine. Might not be your preference. You might want them all connected, but again, totally up to you. I don't hand letter at all, so I definitely don't know how exactly it should look. I know general ideas because of the way just regular cursive looks. So here you can kind of tell that the left side of the A is quite faded. So I'll zoom in here and show you guys how I'm filling it in. So now that I filled in the problematic letters, I'm going to continue stamping. I think it was a lot easier to connect the word botanical than it was the word gardens, but again, totally probably a preference thing. I don't know how hand lettering works really. I don't know where the connection points are and what they should generally look like. So there my A and L didn't really line up very well, so I'll end up filling that in with my marker as well. So just something that you can kind of do to kind of fix your stamping mistakes is having a good marker that has the same tone of black that you've been using. Definitely need to do some testing for that. And also make sure it works on mixed media. Luckily mine did. Sometimes they might bleed though, so you definitely want to be careful. And by the way, this is an old Martha Stewart marker. I've had it for a while. It's a really thick bullet tip, which I tried to use for journaling back in the day, but it was just too obnoxious. Here's where I start working on my clustering. I am going to glue it on my photos just so I can get them in place and I don't knock them out of place. And you can still see that bordering strip down there at the bottom, which again is from the Wild Whisper paper. And I think it really helps bring in that extra pop of blue because we have the pinks and the yellows. And you really needed that cool tone to help even it out. So I'm grabbing a piece from my cut apart pieces that I grabbed, and then the little flowers, and I'm just putting those down with some liquid adhesive, layering those up. And this layout's almost complete. I am going to create a cluster in the top left, and I'm also going to create one over to the left of my photos. So you'll see that in a little bit. I did contemplate stamping, but I ended up just saying I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to glue down my cluster pieces as well as my sequins. I do pull out these word stickers, which I had in my stash. I'm not sure where they're from. And then lastly, I'll cut out one of these larger red flowers and make that the base for my top left cluster to help balance out the bottom of the paper. And to also anchor that, I'm going to use some light blue doilies from my stash. These are by Doodlebug. And I'll sneak some of these in throughout the rest of the layout as well to bring in more of that blue from the bottom strip from the Wild Whisper collection. And that pretty much finishes up this layout. I hope you guys enjoyed. I did add a bunch of sequins, which you'll see in the close-up shot. I just couldn't glue them on camera because it was frustrating me to no end. So this is the completed layout. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and check out the brand new release from Wild Whisper in the comments down below before you guys miss out and it sells out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!